pray, Odell. You guys are enjoying it. Enjoy. I hope you're all enjoying your breaks wherever you are. We are currently looking at 2 weeks and a few days at my side to hit in the summer. And I have to say, it is intense. And so I'm thinking of all you teachers out there as you head into this last run of days, because it's crazy intense. Summer is approaching. And yes, we will rest. We will get there and we will rest. But at the moment, I do think a lot of us are at risk of burnout. I think it would definitely, I'm even feeling it in Teachers Talk Radio. I'm feeling it in my workplace. I'm feeling it amongst friends of mine who are also teachers. Everyone's just hitting it hard. We're trying to do our social stuff on the weekends because we're allowed to meet up with people. And then in the weeks, we're trying to do all our end of year stuff. And, I've just done the assessments and the reports, and we had a day trip out to an adventure center, and it was awesome, but it's a lot, right? It's a lot. So I'm here for you, teachers. I'm here for you with the Sunday brunch to wind down a little bit. Sorry, I abandoned you all last week. In your time of need, no doubt. But I'm here now to talk about it all and give you a space to communicate. And of course, this is your space to communicate. This is Teachers Talk Radio. It's an interactive, live podcast and radio show. So if you have something to say, I want to hear it. All right. I want you to communicate and call in, speak to me in this room that I'm in. I'm in a little cupboard under my stairs, famously Harry Potterish. But I am on Teachers Talk Radio. You can drop comments, you can call in live, but to do that, you do need to be on the Podbean app. So I know lots of you might be listening on Twitter. Some of you might be listening on Facebook, on YouTube, on all kinds of platforms. But it's Podbean, which is where you can communicate directly. So Tim, for example, our wonderful Tim, Chem Commander, regular listener and tech support for Teachers Talk Radio, he has already commented, so I can read that here and you can hear all about it. Tim says, he's broke up Friday. Woohoo! Well done, Tim. Congratulations. Hopefully you cracked open some lovely beverage and enjoyed your Friday, and of course to a celebratory football match, no doubt. As well, in case anybody's aware, there's some good football matches going on these days, some famous football matches. We'll talk about those soon. Chucking it down here in Plymouth, same here in Romford, no Dartmoor walk this morning. Well, Tim, you know what? You've earned it. I hope you're warm and dry, cup of tea in hand, sat with a, blanket on the sofa, kicking back. You deserve a rest, man. All the time you're up and about and, countryside walking, it's lovely, but today, take your Sunday as a rest. You have permission from me, Graham Columb, to kick back and enjoy your Sunday brunch time. Happy Sunday morning, guys. I hope you are resting today. Listen, work can wait. Work can wait. Put it to the side. I think right now in our evenings and on our Saturdays and our work days, everything is just we are working crazy hard. So please switch off for the next while. Let's talk about things in the world. Let's talk about all the crazy stuff going on in the world these days on this Sunday brunch. Here on the Sunday brunch, I like to talk about educators, not educating so much. So on Teachers Talk Radio, we have an amazing range of hosts with lots of discussions about all different types of education or areas of education from all different aspects of the profession. But here I like to have a little thought for the teachers themselves, a little bit of well-being, a little bit of, maybe some laughs along the way, who knows. But this is what we're all about here. So I'm not going to be talking shop heavily. The theme today is about the personal and professional work-life crossover. And that sounds similar to previous things I've talked about, but actually it has its own unique place this week, because what I'm really trying to hone in on this week are things like our Love Island teacher, right? He happens to be a teacher. He's decided to go on Love Island. Who cares, right? Why should it matter that he's a teacher on Love Island? We know there's been a doctor on Love Island. We know there's been, an accountant on Love Island. There's been all kinds of different people on Love Island. But for some reason, certainly on EduTwitter, there seems to be some kind of furore because it's a teacher on Love Island. Like teachers should not be morally entitled to have the same experiences as others because we have some kind of moral obligation in the job. I also want to talk about Matt Hancock. I know I'm a little bit late on Matt Hancock. I wasn't here last week, all right? If I was, I would have talked about him then. But I do want to hone in on that guy because he also had a work life, a personal, professional conflict in his life. And I think it's relevant and worth talking through. Let's have a little look what Nicola Ark is doing. I can only assume that's Nicola Arkenstall, who is another tech support, amazing, fantastic Teachers Talk Radio helper. Helper? That sounds so rubbish. Support Teacher Talk Radio, brilliant, amazing person who just, we couldn't do without, to be quite honest, as are all of our Teachers Talk Radio team. She says she is proofreading reports and writing head teacher comments on the bottom, only 90 to go. Yeah, it sounds, I don't know about 90, is that a lot or not? It sounds kind of like a lot, but when I think about a whole school, it's not so much. So well done for getting probably through the majority of them. You've broken the back of your reports. Proofreading reports is something I always should do. And actually, if I'm honest, I'm 10, 11 years in the job now, and I don't know if I've ever proofread my reports. I mean to, and I know it's bad that I don't, but it's just one of those things, because I last minute cram my reports, and they're always good. I've never had any problems come back from reports, so I do want to put that clarifier out there. Obviously, I kind of proofread as I go. I don't just wing it, but there is an element of handing them in quickly and then them being done. Please do, Nicola. It sounds slightly pained that I haven't proofread them. Please do. It really helps us. Ah, yes, the people checking mine. Well, the thing is, the head teacher, actually, I would say the head teacher should not be proofreading the reports. I would say, although yes, I guess it goes by, it's your name on the door, so I guess you should be seeing them all. But Inaz, the head teacher, more so kind of says, she'll have a look at them, she drops comments on them, but she says specifically it's not her job to proofread them, so that's on us, and make sure we are checking them. Who knows? Yeah, but I feel bad for it. If you feel like that's your responsibility, Nicola, then I feel for you there, because I feel like you're carrying a lot of weight that could be shared. But I also appreciate when you don't share weight, and that's a nice thing for the teachers, and that's a worthwhile move in many cases. So listen, to each their own. Nicola says, I'm sure yours are fine. Let's hope, Nicola. Let's hope mine are fine. They have been for the last few years. Well, to say few years, for all my years in teaching. But you never know. This could be the year. It will be the year I say on the radio they've all gone fine. That'll be the year it kicks off. So I'm sure within 2 weeks I may well be eating my words. We'll see. But good luck with your report writing and all of that kind of stuff. Always not nice to be doing work, but I know it's relevant. We all have to balance our lives somehow. So it has to be done sometimes. That's all right. She says thank you. Always appreciated. So yes, please don't burn out. Be mindful of yourselves. On Twitter, I've been seeing people are having learning walks this late in the year, or they have ones coming up. Assessments still going on. Observations. I know somebody who has an observation scheduled for the final week of term. Tell me that's as crazy as I think it is. That's wild. How's your end of term looking, teachers, listeners? I feel free to drop in comments on the Podbean app or call in, and we can just have a little 1-2 on how your end of year is going, because we all have different experiences. We all have different schools. Sometimes it can be scary on how many different schools and environments we're all in. Other times we can feel greatly at peace and like we're all managing these things well. But I hope you're not ending up having crammed, observations and learning walks and assessments this late in the year. I think this time of year should be chalked up to getting things done, winding down where you can, and kind of a mutual pulling together to move towards the end of the year as we are all pooped. And this year more than ever, I have to say, I've never known teachers to be so pooped. This is really, I feel like this is the most I've known people to be tired. I've seen a lot of people saying it. I know in work, again, lots of fellow teachers more tired than they've ever been. And I don't think we just say that. I don't think we say it every year. Maybe we do. Obviously, last year we might have, but this year really is something. So, yeah, represent yourselves, guys. Look out for yourselves. Nicola says, what? That seems mad. It's also terrible that Ofsted are still going in now. I know. I kind of didn't appreciate Ofsted. When we won a football match, England won. I say we. I didn't win a football match. England won a football match a little while ago, and Ofsted commented outstanding as like a little bit of a, oh, look, we're self-aware and we'll joke about our reviewing of things. And I was a bit like, no, lads, like, don't joke about outstanding anything, because you actually are going into buildings and putting the pressure on. There are teachers who probably at the time of that tweet were stressed, up late, probably having a little mini breakdowns, crying because Ofsted are saying they're going to come in this late in the year, and then they have the cheek to kind of come in on the social jokes. I'm a bit like, that's not you, Ofsted. It's not your place. You're not there for jokes. I don't want to hear your jokes. You can go review schools and ruin all these people's, assessments of themselves and confidence all you like, but let's not come in with the, oh, I'm a jokey. I'm not a big fan of that in general. Do you know what I mean? When companies kind of jump on memes, it kind of kills the meme, as far as I've ever known. Whenever there's an internet joke or something we're all together on, once a company jumps in, I'm like, nah, you know what? Forget it. Because they're just trying to sell a product. We know you're trying to sell a product. We're not stupid. Just go away. Sell your products. But, saying Ofsted, saying outstanding to a football team is not going to make... Oh, they might make people like him. I don't know. It doesn't make me like him anymore. I'm not that against Ofsted. I think they can do a good job. And actually, in my own experience of them, they kind of functioned all right. But I just don't see the point in... What do you think? What do you think, guys? Am I being a bit... I do get a bit pedantic sometimes about things like that. So call me out if you like. Sobia says it's true. So I'm glad you're on board, Sobia. I hope you had a good show this morning, Sobia. We're in a pandemic, Sobia says. Indeed. There should surely be some self-awareness, some changing of perspectives, but some people just seem to not get there, right? They shouldn't be doing anything extra on top. I also think just general... Like, isn't it a bit dog's body-ish to kind of be doing it in, on a normal year, doing, what do you call it when Ofsted pop round? Inspections. Doing an inspection this late in the year is bad anyway. And then this year it's like, don't you have anything better to do? Couldn't you be rewriting your standards or reassessing how you review schools, seeing as that's clearly got major problems in it? Spend this month doing that, Ofsted. Stop coming around schools, giving us extra hassle when we're literally dead on our feet. Please. Alas, we move on. Maybe on that note, we should talk about the football, because that's been going on, hasn't it? I do find it funny when people talk about football, they say we won against so-and-so. We're going through to the semi-finals. Oh, we're doing well. You haven't done anything, mate. You've sat and watched the TV. Do you know what I mean? I don't know why people attribute themselves to football teams. I find it very funny, if I'm honest. I appreciate football. I like football, and I definitely have a space for it. There have been times in my life I've been very into it. I've lived with flatmates who've been really into football, and at those times I get into football. But I've never quite settled with the we pronoun for footballs and me. When I haven't done anything, I've just sat here. I've shouted at a TV at best, and now I am apparently pairing myself with the achievements of a sports team who spent their life training. I don't know. I think I'm on one today, guys. I'm sorry. It must be something about my morning, or I don't know. It's the end of year, isn't it? It's grouchy end of year stuff, surely. Let's see. Ella's dropped a comment here on the Podbean app. If you want to drop your own comments, or you want to say something to me live on the air, pop onto the Podbean app and you can comment here and I'll read them aloud and respond online. You can also call in. Maybe you want to criticize my approach to football. Maybe you can justify why it's okay to say we when we talk about football teams. Call in to Teachers Talk Radio. I'm a teacher. I want to talk with you. And if not, I'll be talking at you. Ella says, so grateful for the Welsh education system right now. Wales are so great. Wales and Scotland, so great. Why are they so great and our own government's so bad, in my humble opinion? It may not be perfect, she says, but we've been given the breathing space from Eston for another term. They're also going to focus on engaging with schools more because we have the new curriculum in 2022. That sounds wise. That sounds like the kind of thing that people who actually are interested in developing systems and improving things would do at this time of year, this unusual time of year when everyone is clearly not in their usual headspace. Why just stick to the book and pop in, you're not doing this well, you're not doing enough PSHE. Do you know what I mean? I know I'm not doing enough PSHE. Get out. I've been doing loads of stuff over this year. My least concern is whether I'm balancing my curriculum right now in July of 2021. Go home, Ofsted. Improve your system. All right. I'm going to take a little moment. That's always a calming tune, isn't it? A calming tune to pull us back together on Teachers Talk Radio. Who knows? We might be in for a ranty show today. I don't know as much as you, so we'll see. Haven't even gotten to talk about the main topic yet, but we'll probably get up to there at around the half-hour point. But our main topic is the line between professional and personal lives. Is there a crossover? Is my main question to you guys as listeners today. When we are teachers, should our personal lives basically be restricted, be censored in some ways? Should we not be allowed some experiences that other people might otherwise be allowed because we are teachers and therefore role models? Maybe that's overstating it. Do we? That's my main question for you today. And I've got to say, I haven't got a definite conclusion on it for myself. I want to say no. We should be allowed to do anything in our personal lives, and our teaching lives is a separate professional space. However, I know that could probably be pretty ignorant, maybe naive, maybe maybe ignorant is the more of a truth to it. That actually, this person on Love Island, children are going to be looking at him and going, "Oh, he's my favorite teacher. He's on Love Island, so now I want to be on Love Island." Maybe. I just think they have a doctor on Love Island. They have all other kinds of people on Love Island. And also, like, let's normalize teaching. Why do we think we're like above it? Do you know what I mean? Why do we think we're this kind of moral? Surely, wouldn't it be a good thing if teachers were normal people and teachers were seen to be on Love Island and in society and maybe in politics and on game shows? We allow them to do things like that. Teachers, my old history teacher recently won Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Would you believe? That's Donald Fear. He was a history teacher in my secondary school. He won the £1 million recently on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Now, so we're allowed to go on to things where we act intelligent, right? We're allowed to go on to things where we showboat our brains, but we're not allowed to, I don't know, be a little bit vain, maybe be proud of our bodies or something like that. I can't say I'm one for Love Island. I do. If I'm honest, I shamelessly do enjoy the odd episode of Love Island. There's a bit of, escapism, a bit of let your brain melt, enjoy, wind down, escape. I can't go to Spain this year, so I might as well pop it on the TV and see those guys having a laugh. Are they in Spain this year? Love Island in England would be an interesting twist on the brand. They're surely in Spain. I haven't watched it this year. All I'm aware of is that there's this whole, I say in inverted commas, controversy around a teacher on Love Island. I honestly don't think it should be a thing. What do you think? Does it matter that a teacher is on Love Island? Should they not be allowed to be on Love Island because there's a moral obligation in the job? Might it negatively influence kids, or might it normalize teachers, and might it actually kind of bring teachers more into the modern age and make us more relatable? Is it a good move? I think of Dr. Alex, there was nothing bad there when a doctor went into Love Island. He was a great guy, and I don't think he represented himself really well. He represented doctors well. So I don't know how this teacher's doing. I heard he was a bit cocky and stuff, but maybe it'd be a positive move. Thing is, teachers can be cocky. Teachers can be vain. They can be annoying. So why shouldn't there be one brandishing that on Love Island? You tell me. This is Teachers Talk Radio. You're listening to Graham Column on the Sunday Brunch. It's Sunday morning. What day is it? 4th of July? Happy Independence Day. I don't know what the American national anthem is. I can't think of the tune. I should have uploaded an American national anthem. Now I will simply make up tunes with my impromptu mouth trumpet to signify Independence Day in America, celebrating their independence from... Who are they independent from? Points to anybody in the room who can tell me who America are celebrating independence from on Independence Day. Who are we glad that they are no longer affiliated with or managed by? Come on, comments. It's Independence Day because America had become independent from, or had become independent from. No, take it. This is supposed to be teachers in the room. I've got 12 teachers in the room. American Independence Day. Who are we independent from? America are independent from Britain, of course. King George, I think, was king at the time, or one of the King Georges was king at the time. He was taxing the British troops in America, and so they went, you know what? We don't need the Brits. Let's separate. And they had a big old well, big old number of battles and wars, a civil war where basically the English went against the English, some of them essentially affiliating themselves with America, and now they are independent. So happy Independence Day, America. You are no longer joined with the UK. Instead, we talk about a special relationship, and that's just this fuzzy, invisible nonsense, isn't it? But yes, congratulations, American listeners. Are there any Americans in the room celebrating their Independence Day today? What are you doing today? Going to fireworks? Going to have a party tonight? In fact, I'd love to ask American listeners how their COVID stuff is going, because I know they've pretty much done away with their rules and they have an honor system with their COVID distancing, and they just want people to basically be well behaved. And I'd be curious as to how that's going. My instincts would say it's probably not going very well, but I don't know. So if you are in America, you want to talk about your independence, you can call in. Talk to me about your pride of independence, or how you're not a big fan of Independence Day. Maybe you just think about the Bill Pullman and Will Smith movie and aliens invading. Who knows? If you want to talk about aliens invading, you got to switch on to my last two episodes, talking about conspiracy theories in the classroom. Today, we are talking about the line between personal and professional life. We talked a little bit already about the Love Island teacher who has come under some criticism, as do most Love Island contestants, let's be honest. But he's come under particular criticism because he's a teacher going into Love Island. And so it's somehow suggested that teachers should not be allowed to have their own, their own privileges, their own choices. They have to limit their choices or limit their life experiences because they're a teacher. I say no to that. I say he should be allowed to go on Love Island. He should be allowed to do what he wants. He's a human. He's got free choice as much as anyone else. I think to say he's not allowed to go on Love Island is kind of like criminalizing normal choices, because I would understand that if someone was a criminal, we wouldn't want them in a classroom. We wouldn't want anybody with a criminal history being a teacher. That makes sense because of the moral crossover and the dangers and the influence on children. However, when we have free choice in the free world, in our normal home countries, we can do whatever we like, right? Those choices should surely be open to us, right? And whether going on a game show to meet the love of your life, or whether you're going on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, or whether you want to pop to the pub on a Sunday, or whether you want to get together with your mates and ride trains on the weekend, these are just free choices. Why is one allowed and another not? I think if you are someone who thinks there shouldn't be a teacher on Love Island, I would challenge you and say that I think you're criminalizing free choices. And I would say, why? Why would somebody not be? So call in. I would love a challenge. I'm always calling out for people to challenge me on here. If you think it's wrong that a teacher is on Love Island and you think it should not be allowed, or maybe that teacher is a terrible person for some reason for going onto Love Island, call me up. I haven't watched Love Island. I don't know who the guy is, so you can probably educate me further on it. But I would love for somebody to call me out on it and challenge me on my stance that actually we should be allowed to be on Love Island. We should be allowed to do whatever we like. Tom Rogers is in the room. He is the man behind Teachers Talk Radio, and he also runs EduDate, which is a dating kind of program, a dating site, a dating thing for teachers, which is pretty cool. And so I find, so again, we have this idea of, dating with teaching. What's the deal? What's the problem with that, right? There's no problem with EduDate. So why would there be a problem with a teacher going on Love Island? Tom, what do you think of a teacher being on Love Island? I ask you. Is it wrong? Is it the same as EduDate? Is it worse than EduDate? Is there some kind of moral problem with a teacher being on Love Island? Let me know. All he says at the moment is, oh no, because I brought up EduDate. Listen, you should be proud of your projects, Tom. Proud of your projects. We are. We're proud of you. Yes, indeed. So that's all we're talking about today. Look, I didn't quite get through the football-y side of things. I just had a little mocking of people saying we when they refer to football teams. A couple of bits on football I wanted to touch on. Where are we? First of all, this whole coming home thing, football coming home. Can we talk about that for a moment? I know this is supposed to be for teachers. We can all talk about this. It's national news. It's important, right? So people say football's coming home. It's an interesting one because the idea is that football was invented in Britain, right? That's what people are saying. Britain, by the way, not England, all right? Because actually there was a development of football rules in the 1800s, right? And that it was initially one group of rules became rugby, and that was the real English one. And actually a Scottish person modified the rules to involve passing and basically soften it up a little bit, make it more fluid. And that became football. So if football's coming home, it should really be coming home to Scotland. Google it, kids. Google it. All right. I know you've been singing it since '96 or whatever, but when you say football's coming home, you're talking about Scotland, lads. I heard a thing when I was really young. I heard a thing about football originally being people in Scotland would kick a pig's head around. I know that sounds ridiculous, but the vaguest memory, I tried to Google it this morning and didn't turn anything up. The vaguest memory in my mind from when I was young was that football originated from kicking a pig's head around in Scotland. That's not a fact. The fact is that the football rules that we follow today were developed largely by a Scottish person who was part of the FIFA board at the time, developing football in the 1860s. And the Scottish person introduced passing and things that make football football. So when you say football's coming home, it's Scotland, kids, Scotland. However, the pig's head thing may be fiction. I may have dreamt that or something. I'm not sure. But I would love it if anybody in the room has any knowledge about whether football comes from kicking a pig's head around. I would love to know that that wasn't a dream, because I'm really quite certain it was a real memory in my head. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe someone was just winding me up when I was a kid. So it's apparently coming home. They're doing well, but I have to say this emotion is familiar. I remember many recent tournaments where we think it's coming home, or at least the last World Cup, we thought it was coming home. And I have a bit of an issue with both this cup and the previous one. We do get rather excited about it coming home because loads of the amazing teams have been knocked out already. And that bothers me a little bit. You know, like France have gone, Germany have gone, and all these teams have gone. And so it's like then we go, hey, we might be in with a chance here, lads. And I don't know if that's really worth celebrating. Do you know what I mean? Like, surely we should have to play a challenging team in order to celebrate. If we just win by default because we're left with, you know, Bob Monkhouse or, I don't know, some like old geezers who basically put on a kit and kicked around. If we beat them in a final, I don't know if we should be losing our minds celebrating. Hey, we didn't have to play Germany. We didn't have to play France. We're the best. I don't know. It seems weird to me that. You tell me. Like I said, I'm aware I'm a little bit cynical. I really am glad we're doing well. I'm excited to be doing well. I do appreciate football. I haven't been following it greatly. Blame crazy teaching things. I don't know. But I couldn't help but share my insights. One on football not actually coming home because home is Scotland for football. And secondly, the pig head eye story I quite enjoyed. And then also the winning by default, you know, to say it's great that we're winning because, you know, it's coming home because there are no longer kind of proper teams to play. That's not true, but there we go. Home is Scotland. It is, Tom. Home is Scotland. Football comes home to the Scotland guy, right? A Scottish guy developed the rules of passing, which made football football. Google it. I'm telling you, that coming home thing is just, it's more nonsense, Tom. You've been roped in there. So there you go. So anyway, that's my little take on football. Am I being harsh? Criticize me. Weigh in. Come on, I'm up for it, guys. I'm only kind of trying to wind you up, if I'm honest. I've been off for a week, so I've got all this pent up energy to wind people up with. Nicola says it's coming home. It's coming home to Scotland. Scotland's they're not even in the Euros, are they? I don't think they even qualified to take part at all. Poor old Scotland, but they should, because that will be right. And some random point when we're all like 70 or 80 or something, I will be singing "It's Coming Home" when Scotland win. And everybody will be like, what's this guy doing? And I'll be like, lads, I'm a teacher, right? And I'm teaching you all football's home is Scotland. Sit down. Let's have a look. Off all week. No, I mean, Tom says, have I been off all week? No, I haven't been off school all week. I mean, being off Teachers Talk Radio last week. You know, I didn't have my chance to offload my opinions on everything. So I'm doubling up this week. I don't know. I'm on the wind up. I feel like I'm who knows? I'm jumping between topics, aren't I? So football. I hope you're all enjoying. Nicholas says we drew with Scotland. Indeed, because we recently had I think there was 150 years match to commemorate the invention of football, essentially. And we played Scotland. I don't know if that's the match we drew on, but it would be ironic if we did, because Scotland, I bet their crowd were all saying it's coming home, guys, because we in Scotland are, in fact, the home of football. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. All right, it is half an hour into the Sunday brunch, and it's been a privilege to be on your airwaves with you so far. I think we're going to have a little break. We're going to have some news. We're going to have a word from our ads, and then we're going to crack on with the talk of professional and personal life crossover. I think we're going to get into the one and the only Matt Hancock in a moment. Look forward to that. Here's the news. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
The UK faces an international student time bomb, according to a report in the newspaper. International students arriving from red list countries and who are due to start at UK universities in the coming autumn are likely, under current government rules, to have to quarantine for 10 days. They must stay in a government-approved hotel with a cost currently of around £1,750. The capacity in the system could well be stretched to its limit, although the Eye is reporting that many students may drop out or defer until 2022, when it's hoped issues surrounding the ongoing pandemic may actually be resolved. The Eye reports that, according to information from the National Indian Students' Union UK, around 55,000 Indian students are hoping to attend UK universities. But with India on the red list and this unlikely to change, reps from the NISU question whether there will be enough hotels. So far, some Scottish universities may be allowed to have students quarantine on campus, but this is only in the test phase and a pilot study is needed. There is no similar plan for England. Only 17 of 130 UK universities have so far offered to pay some of the costs for incoming students. Replacing isolation with unreliable COVID tests could put pupils at risk. Deepti Guraj-Sahni, clinical epidemiologist who's writing in The Guardian, is expressing concern over government proposals to change current advice for English secondary schools. Schools are currently facing very high rates of transmission, with 375,000 children in England missing lessons for COVID-19 related reasons. According to recent reports in the media, government ministers are looking to do away with the need for contacts of positive cases to isolate. The plan may be to instead use daily tests with results returning in 30 minutes. The Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Agency has made it clear that the tests were not approved for daily use due to the possibility of fake results. Arguments against the proposal to scrap bubbles include uncertainty around the long-term consequences of the virus in children, particularly concerns around reports of symptoms such as brain fog and difficulties with concentration and memory. Campaigners argue that mitigation such as face masks and air filtration should be introduced and vaccinations for adolescents begun. In related news, many media outlets in the UK are reporting that teens across the UK are faking positive COVID-19 tests in the hope of being sent home from school. Inspired by a number of videos uploaded to TikTok which show British teens mixing various liquids which then give a positive test, a dedicated account has more than 20,000 followers so far. Many education leaders have referred to the new trend as unhelpful, with Jeff Barton, General Secretary of the Association of School and College Leaders, commenting in the newspaper, "We assure this involves a very small minority of pupils and that tests are usually used correctly. However, we urge parents to ensure tests are not being misused." TikTok has issued a statement of reassurance saying it removes misleading information that causes harm. This has been your weekend news.
Creative Resources, made for teachers by teachers. At Creative Resources, we've been rethinking what a classroom can be. We've created a huge range of more than 2,500 original and exciting resources that span across more than 15 different subject areas. Whether you're looking for primary or secondary level resources, careers options, PSHE, arts, or humanities, Creative Resources have the resources for you. We offer full curriculum packages and unique, challenging escape rooms themed on topics such as Shakespeare, Tudors, and fractions. We have quizzes, task cards, Tarsier puzzles, and lots more. Better still, more than 100 resources can be accessed for free. Just visit our website www.CRE8TIVEresources.com. You can get 10% off any order you make on our website by using the discount code TTRadio. Creative resources made for teachers by teachers. Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful, and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TTRadio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club. Introducing the Leadership Masterclass series by Diana Osagi. Learn how to ditch your fears and develop your leadership confidence. How to deal with difficult colleagues. How to thrive when you lead in a challenging environment. And how to get colleagues to buy into your vision. Join Diana for her online leadership masterclasses starting on the 10th of July and running all the way through the summer. These sessions are the perfect way to prepare and refresh for the next academic year and beyond. Book your place at courageousleadership.co.uk/events now. The first 50 leaders to sign up get an additional free mini coaching session with Diana herself. Don't miss this. Courageous Leadership Masterclasses at courageousleadership.co.uk/events. Live from London, this is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. Boom! We're back in the room. It's Graham Columb on the Sunday Brunch on Teachers Talk Radio. Today we are talking about the crossover of personal lives and professional lives. Should they be allowed to cross over? Do they cross over? Should they be separated? There's a teacher on Love Island. There's a politician having affairs. Should it affect their jobs? We'll talk. Live from London, this is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. Yes, you are listening to TT Radio, otherwise known as Teachers Talk Radio. It is the radio spot where you can communicate with the hosts live on air by text, chat, or actually calling in directly so you can speak on the air if you have something to say. All right. If you are on the Podbean app, first of all, if you're not on the Podbean app and you're listening, I strongly advise you download the Podbean app so that you can communicate directly during the show. And that's really good. Really good for me, really good for you. Nice to get your views out. And why not? You're a human as much as anyone else. So get on the app. If you are on the Podbean app, then there's a little comment box. You can drop comments throughout the episode. Or there is a round grey icon. And if you click that, that's the magic button, guys. That's the magic button. If you click the round grey icon, you can call in and we can have a chat and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Well, not whatever. Keep it relevant, okay? Because we've had some calls in over here over the last few months, and every now and again we just get a random person. You can feel free to call in as a random person, but let's keep it on topic. Today we are talking about professional and personal life crossover, okay? There have been a few incidents lately where there have been personal lives crossing into professional lives. And the question is, Does it matter? Should it matter? Is it just part of this sensationalist generation that we live in, where everybody wants to know everyone's business and it's essentially a little bit nosy? Or do we have to accept that some roles are morally bound to some degree? And if we ignore that, then we are being hypocrites, maybe. We're being ignorant, maybe. Let's talk about Matt Hancock. I know I'm a bit late, all right? I wasn't on the air last weekend, so I didn't get to talk about Matt Hancock as it was all kicking off. And I feel it's a little bit like yesterday's, fish and chip wrapper or whatever at this point. But it's relevant, okay? Because, of course, he was caught having an affair. There was some filming of him having an affair. He has a wife and 3 kids, and yet he's essentially having an affair with his assistant person in the office. And now it was controversial. It was a problem for many reasons. One being that he's been touting social distancing. He was the health, secretary guy who led health in the UK. And so throughout COVID, he's been reiterating the message of distancing, personal responsibility, all of that kind of moral, this is how we should all be behaving to everybody. And then he's caught having an affair, no less, certainly breaking the 2-meter distancing rule with the lady who he works with, who he seems to have employed simply to have this affair. That's the theory that many people are taking from what he's done. So he's paying a taxpayers' money to have the affair, and he's breaking the social distancing lines to have the affair. Now, I actually, in that situation, I do think there's a crossover of life. I think he's been so hypocritical to be telling us about how we should be morally and then not doing it himself. I think there's an issue there. And I think that's because he was prescribing a moral stance. He was saying this is morally what people should do. And perhaps maybe that could also be said of the teacher going into Love Island. Maybe there is also an argument there that, they are... What I'm saying, that the teacher on Love Island also prescribes a moral view by being a teacher, and so therefore should be aware of the moral implications of going on Love Island. Maybe. You let me know. I would love to hear your opinions on this. But for me, with Matt Hancock, there was definitely a crossover, and so there is an element of his morals, his personal life choices affecting his professional life choices. Maybe I'm wrong. Is there anybody in the room who wants to challenge that? And I would love it if you did want to call in and challenge it, or type in a comment to challenge. Maybe simply his role is to pass the message out and disseminate the message to the public of what we should be doing in social distancing, and is not actually tied to what he does in his personal life. Maybe his personal life is his personal life. He can do what he likes, same way anyone can. And actually, he was simply doing his job as a government minister by sending the government message of social distancing and masking up and, all of that stuff that he was seen to break. Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe we should just accept he's doing a job at one point, and then there's his personal life where he breaks the rules, and people do that all the time. Maybe. I have to say, I've said to my children a lot in my class, do as I say, not as I do, because I make a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, if I do something wrong in the class, I'll jokingly say, kids, do as I say, not as I do. Or if I spell something wrong, something like that, an innocent little passing moment in the class, I joke about, I'm not always doing the perfect version of a teacher. I'm not always the perfect version of a teacher. Of course, none of us are. But is there something to be said there? I know, obviously, an affair with an assistant who's probably been employed for the sake of the affair is a much bigger problem than misspelling a word. But is there anybody here who wants to represent the side of a personal life is a personal life and you stay out someone's business? Because that is how I feel about the Love Island teacher. I feel like they should be allowed to be on Love Island. But I would love to hear different teachers' views, because I have a feeling there are people out there who might strongly disagree with me and think, no, there should not be a teacher on Love Island, or just think Love Island in general should be incinerated and never thought of again. Of course, Love Island in itself has its own issues, doesn't it, around the way they look after their guests. There doesn't seem to be any program of care after the show, or at least there didn't seem to be previously. I don't know if there is now, but obviously they had a number of deaths, unfortunately, from former contestants and even from one of the hosts. Unfortunately, Caroline Flack died last year. So is there, is there something to be said there about the teacher conversation. I'd love to hear from you. You can call in on the Podbean app if you have views to share. But more so, Matt Hancock is the big problematic one, because for me, for some reason, I see him as crossing a line personally that he shouldn't have. I see him as different to the Love Island teacher. I wonder why that is. I wonder if anybody else feels the same, where one is okay and the other one isn't. Or maybe you just think they should all be fine. I wonder what things we do in our personal lives that might be seen as controversial in the class. There's tons, isn't there? Like, we'll all swear in our personal lives, but we don't swear in the classroom. Now, if somebody heard us swearing out in the pub with our friends, would they be allowed to come up and say, oh, you're a teacher. Do you think you should be using that kind of language? Do you know what I mean? Or should I be then having a conversation with the head teacher on Monday because they're saying, you were heard swearing out in town, Graham, and that's not a good look for the school. This for me is all in that spectrum of Love Island teacher, even Matt Hancock affair. Where's the line of what we're allowed to do freely? Because I don't think we should be strung up just because we're teachers, right? We should not be held to a kind of perfect moral standard, or even anywhere near a perfect moral standard just because we're teachers. I'm one for teachers being normal. I'm one for representing teachers as normal humans, and pushing forward the narrative that we are not always going to be perfect, and actually it's healthier to understand we make mistakes, and not even mistakes. We have free choice. Sometimes we will deliberately go out, have a bunch of drinks with our friends, and we might get drunk and we might swear a bunch, and that's fine because it's our personal life. And actually, it's realistic to expect that anybody in a job has a personal life which you should be allowed to kick back on. I shouldn't only be allowed to do this stuff behind private closed doors. But I do wonder what you guys think, and what's the public perception? Do you think that maybe we should, obviously, I'm not going to go out and be a lout deliberately, but should I be told off in school if I happen to get drunk and happen to make some bad decisions when drunk? Out on whatever. It's a bad look, isn't it? Saying it is like, ugh, that's not something I choose to do in my life. But should it be criticized openly amongst teachers? Should it be said as wrong if we want to go out and get a bit messy? Should we be limited? What aspects of our lives do you think should be limited because we're teachers? I don't think any. I think the only thing that should be limited is, and I said it earlier, is I think the line should be criminality. I think obviously crime, you're out of the classroom. Any crime committed, any personal offences, any jail time, get out of the classroom. It's a bit too risky, too much. But I think other things, I don't know. I think the future would have a clearer line between work and personal life. Let's see, Nicola says maybe it's about being a good role model to the students. Well, exactly, Nicola, that is absolutely the crux of it. And that's why I think there is this expectation that teachers present a bit better, make more careful life choices. The Love Island controversy is about the role model to the students. However, I don't think it's as simple as that. I think that's a very grey area. To talk about being a good role model, which is, of course, a subjective term, being a good role model, I think can really open the door to a very murky conversation and kind of I don't think that's proper, and I don't think that's how a good role model would act. And how do we decide these things? Like, why shouldn't a good role model be able to swear, for example? I think of Gary Vaynerchuk, or I don't know how you pronounce his name, Gary V. He goes by Gary V on social media. He's always swearing. He's a big advocate for swearing and being your real self. He's a businessman, very successful businessman. I don't think in a Trumpy kind of way. I think he's kind of morally quite a direct and clear-minded person, but he does swear a lot. He can be quite harsh. Where do we draw the line on what's a good role model? Where do you draw your line on what's a good role model? Let's have a little look. Nicola's gone on to say the morals of the Love Island show don't really fit with being a role model. Yeah, well, who decides that? Who decides that Love Island cannot host role models? I actually think that they have had some really strong people on there. Honestly, like, I watched it a couple of seasons ago. I think season 4. I watched it when Dr. Alex was on them. And at the start, I was of that viewpoint that no good role models. It's all a mess. It's all horrible. But as I watched it, you see people deal with tricky emotional situations. You see people who are vulnerable, and you see people who are very strong. And you see people who come through challenging situations, and people who manage themselves well and carry themselves with pride and self-respect, and other ones who don't. And so I don't think you can write off Love Island as a everybody on there, is not making good role model decisions necessarily. But please continue to weigh in on this, because I'm really keen about what other people think. Seema says, would you say it's on to mix personal life with professional life? So teachers dating teachers in the same school, for example. Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. About the idea of relationships within a school. I always find that a bit of a no-no. I've only ever known that to not be good, but that is just my personal experience. I would never work in the same school as my wife, and I know people who have worked in the same school together, and honestly, now they're divorced. And I've known other situations that haven't gone so well when people work in the same school. So I don't think that's a great thing, but I wouldn't say it can't work. I reckon some people might be able to make it work. It all depends on how mature and professional people can be. I think it'll be a challenge, but possible. Dr. Alex Seamer is saying, that's exactly my point. I think Dr. Alex represented himself really well. I think he was a really decent, down-to-earth person on Love Island. I think he held himself well. He didn't come out with any shame or, Nicholas says, I don't watch it, but I think it's a lot of sex. There can be sex on it, but, it depends what you take from it, really. Like, I guess some people will switch on and watch it because, someone's going to have sex and that's a big deal to watch a show. But honestly, as an adult, you watch it and that's the worst part of it. It's boring as anything. You're like, right, see what else is going on. Or you might have a bit of a laugh because it's just awkward TV. But I wouldn't say that's the point of it. I think there are other things to take from it apart from the controversy of sex, which I do think when it started, that was the big thing, wasn't it? Is that all these people were getting into relationships and developing their relationships physically on camera, and that wasn't great. They don't show it to a graphic degree. It's just like, what's going on. Anyway, I don't need to advertise Love Island on here. I'm just saying, I don't think it's a case of the show is necessarily full of bad role models. Seema says there's quite a few shows. Okay to mix. I think that ignore above comment. Yeah, autocorrect Seema. I think you've had a couple of little problems on there. No problem. I'm glad you're there. You must be typing like crazy, high energy typing, trying to get your opinions in. So I appreciate that, and please continue. Sobi says it depends if you like reality TV. I don't like reality TV much. Of course, reality TV in general, right? It puts forward a dilemma, a moral dilemma of whether reality TV can be good ever, or whether the nature of reality TV is taking entertainment from people's emotions, be them good or bad emotions, and therefore all reality TV could be killed off. The term reality TV is a joke, isn't it? Because there's nothing real about any of it. I mean, it might as well be, Get Your Own Back or Funhouse or something. It's no more reality than any other TV. But that term suggests maybe to younger people that they should be getting their realistic expectations of life from reality TV. And then there comes the moral discussion. FOD3 says maybe it's not the show, but how you conduct yourself personally, especially on a show that is considered quite sexual. I agree with that. I think now if the teacher does not conduct themselves very well, then, well, again, that's their choice. And then maybe their school can decide on how they're going to deal with that. But I don't think it should necessarily be a write-off and they're sacked and they're off. Get Your Own Back. Seema's liking the Get Your Own Back reference. I tell you, any 90s TV shows, I got your back on those. I got any reference for those. Funhouse was the other one I threw in. You might appreciate that. Pat Sharp in general, I'm a fan. Yeah, I like this discussion though, guys. I think there's a lot to talk about. Is Love Island innately morally wrong? Should teachers be not allowed to go on to things that could be considered morally wrong? Where's the line of a good role model to you? What show is it acceptable for a teacher to go on to, and what show is it not acceptable for a teacher to go on to? Is all reality TV off the table, or is some of it still on the table? The reason I ask all those questions is because I want to challenge you to really drill down on these lines that some of us draw for ourselves and go, well, actually, what exactly are these lines? Like, where am I getting them from? Are they just totally subjective lines I've made up while growing up? That Love Island is bad, but, another show might be okay. Obviously, the sex thing is a particular thing on Love Island, and that's worth highlighting, that maybe that is the write-off. Maybe that is the line that when you get to something that involves sex, we go, right, no teachers. Do you know what I mean? But that seems weird to me. Anything that there's a line, but all other professions are good to go, but not teachers. I'm like, I don't know. Why shouldn't we be allowed the freedoms of choices? It's not criminal, right? It's not criminal, and therefore it's a choice in life. And why shouldn't we be allowed these free choices in life? I challenge you. Nicola, I'd love you to weigh back in, Nicola, because I'd love to hear more on your stance. I think you have an interesting stance. And like I say, I love a challenger and an alternative point of view I really appreciate. FOD says, I think it's enjoyable, but morally questionable. Love Island, absolutely. I think I'm the same as you on that one. I think it's enjoyable, but morally questionable. Real lack of representation is true, unfortunately. For example, older people, different body shapes. Is it a show that we want young people to watch? Well, it's not supposed to be watched by young people, honestly. It's on late. I imagine it's absolutely supposed to be 18 rated. I don't know if they have ratings for things like that. Lovely. I've got a call coming in. It's FOD. Let's have. Oh, it's gone. It's gone. FOD. Call in. I'd love to hear from you. It's a good question. There are issues there with Love Island, and I know they kind of make these tiny movements to try and get better. Oh, press call by mistake. Breaking my little heart, FOD3. But yes, that is a good point. You make a real good point about Love Island. But again, what area there do we go? When do we go, oh, there's enough representation to include teachers in the show, or there's enough different body shapes to include teachers in the show? You know, these things that are a problem with the show, should they write off teacher involvement? Should they write off teacher involvement? I'm not so sure. Sobia says we need to have a Teachers Talk TV show. Do you all remember Teachers TV? I remember Teachers TV. That was just dying out when I started as a teacher. I started as a teacher shortly after the Tories came into government, and just all things like that were starting to be killed off. Do you know what I mean? Like Every Child Matters had gone, and Teachers TV had stopped developing new things. You could just see the funding being pulled left, right, and centre. But Teachers Talk TV. Tom Rogers, you've been asked to step it up now. Teachers Talk TV, you know, coming to you next year. Just kidding. But again, you know, would we end up getting sacked from our jobs because of what we do on Teachers Talk TV? You know, it's worth thinking about. Even me being on here on Teachers Talk Radio, you know, there probably could be some discussions that I have, which I might end up having to talk to my head in school. Oh, this was said on the radio. I don't know. I feel like there should be a firm line between school and home. But I do also, I guess I have an innate, like I do try and hold myself morally, and I do try and represent myself truly in the class. So maybe it's easy for me to say, because I don't make any controversial decisions. Do you know what I mean? Maybe if I was a bit more controversial, I might say, no, we shouldn't be teaching with these lifestyles. But I lead a pretty safe lifestyle. So maybe it's easier for me to say that. Let's see. Tim says, we're not supposed to share our social media with students, but you can go in on TV and talk about your sex life, ? Yeah, this is it, actually. That's actually a real nub of the issue there, Tim, that we do have lines, don't we, at schools where we're expected to really privatize our social media and be very conscious of the power that we could hand over to others if we were out on social media a lot. And again, with even being on the radio like I am now, there's a certain vulnerability of putting yourself out there. But is that right? Is that fair? You know, maybe we should be allowed to have our social media unlocked and just put it out there and see what happens. Do you know what I mean? Like, kids can make of it what they will, but surely at worst, they see that teachers are humans and we're not all kind of robotic, I don't know, Victorian, you know, we do everything perfectly all the time. I don't know if that's that bad. You tell me, people. You tell me. This is Teachers Talk Radio. You can call in. You can type in. Love in the comments. And it's really making me think at this point. I want to keep it simple in my mind. I always work better with simple rules in my mind. So I like to think that, you know, teachers should be allowed on Love Island. We should be allowed to do what we want in our personal life. And then we come into the classroom and we teach. But the more I think about it, there is an issue, isn't there? There is moral issues around role models. And people maybe making poor decisions on TV in the way that affects young minds. Because I think that's in this conversation as well, is about young minds and how they will perceive things that we do. So even if, you know, Love Island is meant for grown-up people watching it, and even if we represent ourselves well, if kids are watching it, they're going to see the other people who might not be representing themselves well. And, you know, they're going to be encouraged to watch it if their teacher is on it. And that's then encouraging young people to watch stuff they shouldn't watch. Oh, it's a minefield. Maybe teachers shouldn't be allowed to do stuff beyond the age ranges that they teach. You know, maybe they should only be able to go on TV shows for the age ranges that are suitable. But I didn't really, you know, going into the job, I don't remember that being a signpost saying, you know, hand in your personal choices at the door. You know, I was of the understanding that I can do what I like in my personal life while being a teacher. I think, and like I say, I'm not that controversial, so I don't have any big problems with having my personal life and teaching life go alongside each other. Maybe if I was a bit more of I don't know, a bit of a nutter or something, then it would be a problem. Let's see some more comments. Sobia says, see, this is the thing. I started when Facebook just came out and we were advised against using it. Same, actually, Sobia. So I didn't have it for 10 years. See, I funnily did have it at the start and now I don't have it. So I've done the opposite. When I started teaching, we were warned about it and I thought, I'll be fine. I put it on private. And then only recently I've come off Facebook. Tim says, surely just as simple as saying, no, we shouldn't. Yes. And Sobia's come back in, but I do feel that teachers should be allowed to make their own decisions. Should teaching have some kind of contract then at the door, teacher training 101, which basically says you're not allowed to do A, B, and C? And if that was written on paper, don't you think there'd be a bit of a reaction? Don't you think that would be seen as a bit wrong? If on the first day of teacher training, you can't go onto Love Island, you can't take part in these reality TV shows, you can't swear online or in a public space, can't do this, can't do that. I don't think that's written down anywhere. I think it's alluded to in the teacher standards when we talk about professionalism and how we hold ourselves and all the rest. But nobody said that you can't specifically do certain things. And I think if we were to really talk about that and really see what that meant, I think we'd have some issues with it. I don't think we'd all be so okay with deciding what's morally acceptable, because I think we'd all soon, tell me if I'm wrong, before long, we'd all realize that we all actually have some morally blurry areas in our lives. And we all sometimes go, oh, maybe if my students knew that about me, that wouldn't be good. Or if they saw me do that at some point when I was younger, that wouldn't be good. We all have those areas. And I don't think it affects the quality of our teaching or should affect the way we're perceived as teachers. Tricky. Like I say, I like to have a simple stance, but this is not a simple discussion. FOD says professional standards, ? Lauren mentioned these yesterday. Yes, indeed. This is the thing. There's the teacher standards, but they're blurry, aren't they? At best, teacher standards are these. It's a safe way. It's like a catch-all that the government can kind of allow you to do stuff or not do stuff as you wish. Thank you for the positive comment, DZ Shane. Let's have a little look. I'm just going to get that person out of the room. Don't want that negativity in here. Right. Let's see. Sobi says, don't some academics have this in place in contracts already? I think they do. Maybe. Oh, academies. Right. Yeah. So academies have contracts and private schools probably have contracts where you do have limits on certain points in your life. What do you think? What do you think? Is that right? Is it wrong? Right, we need to take a little break. It's time for the news. It's time for a little ad break. And then we're going to come back possibly with a Graham Shane. Let's have a listen to this week's latest news.
This is Teachers Talk Radio. And this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
The UK faces an international student time bomb, according to a report in the newspaper. International students arriving from red list countries and who are due to start at UK universities in the coming autumn are likely, under current government rules, to have to quarantine for 10 days. They must stay in a government-approved hotel with a cost currently of around £1,750. The capacity in the system could well be stretched to its limit, although the Eye is reporting that many students may drop out or defer until 2022, when it's hoped issues surrounding the ongoing pandemic may actually be resolved. The Eye reports that, according to information from the National Indian Students' Union UK, around 55,000 Indian students are hoping to attend UK universities. But with India on the red list and this unlikely to change, reps from the NISU question whether there will be enough hotels. So far, some Scottish universities may be allowed to have students quarantine on campus, but this is only in the test phase and a pilot study is needed. There is no similar plan for England. Only 17 of 130 UK universities have so far offered to pay some of the costs for incoming students. Replacing isolation with unreliable COVID tests could put pupils at risk. Deepti Guraj-Sahni, clinical epidemiologist who's writing in The Guardian, is expressing concern over government proposals to change current advice for English secondary schools. Schools are currently facing very high rates of transmission, with 375,000 children in England missing lessons for COVID-19 related reasons. According to recent reports in the media, government ministers are looking to do away with the need for contacts of positive cases to isolate. The plan may be to instead use daily tests with results returning in 30 minutes. The Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Agency has made it clear that the tests were not approved for daily use due to the possibility of fake results. Arguments against the proposal to scrap bubbles include uncertainty around the long-term consequences of the virus in children, particularly concerns around reports of symptoms such as brain fog and difficulties with concentration and memory. Campaigners argue that mitigations such as face masks and air filtration should be introduced and vaccinations for adolescents begun. In related news, many media outlets in the UK are reporting that teens across the UK are faking positive COVID-19 tests in the hope of being sent home from school. Inspired by a number of videos uploaded to TikTok which show British teens mixing various liquids which then give a positive test, a dedicated account has more than 20,000 followers so far. Many education leaders have referred to the new trend as unhelpful, with Jeff Barton, General Secretary of the Association of School and College Leaders, commenting in the newspaper, "We are sure this involves a very small minority of pupils and that tests are usually used correctly. However, we urge parents to ensure tests are not being misused." TikTok has issued a statement of reassurance saying it removes misleading information that causes harm. This has been your weekend news.
Every teacher loves stationery, right? Imagine getting a selection of fun, beautiful and unique stationery items designed and selected especially for teachers, delivered through your door every month. You need to check out teacherslovestationery.club.
I'm always so excited when the box arrives. It's such a treat.
My Teachers Love Stationery Club box is just a little treat to myself every month.
It's always full of delightful and surprising items, including some really good quality stationery brands like Faber-Castell and Stabilo.
And because you never know what you're going to get, it makes it even more fun and special when you get it.
It feels really great to be supporting a family business that's run by real teachers. I can't help feeling like they just know what I'm going to enjoy using stationery-wise better than I do myself.
Visit teacherslovestationery.club and enter the code TT Radio when you buy your first stationery box to save £2 today. teacherslovestationery.club. Graham's Shame.
It's time for Graham's Shame. You have gone for 2 weeks without an episode of Graham's Shame, and now is your time to quench your thirst of shame from my life. Graham's Shame, for those of you that haven't listened before, Graham's Shame is a part of the show where I share something bad I've done in my life so you can feel better about the things in your life. If you haven't done this thing that I've done, then you can feel good about the fact you haven't done it and enjoy my foolish decisions. If you have done something similar to the foolish things I've done, then you can relate and say, I'm not the only person. I am connected in this world and valid. And so welcome to Graham's Shame. Today, my Graham's Shame story is themed somewhat on what we're discussing. We're talking about decisions we make in our personal lives that might not always reflect well on us and whether we're allowed to make those decisions. This is now something that happened before I was a teacher, but still, it's not a highlight of my life. And although actually it is a bit of a funny story, I quite enjoy telling. Anyway, right. So I was about 18, 19. I think I was on a break back from uni. And I'd come home, I was hanging out with my best mate, Scottish guy. We'd gone to the pub for the evening. We'd had a few drinks. It was now that late. The pub had closed. I think it was 11, 12-ish. And we were walking home. Now, on the route to his house, as we were walking, we passed our previous secondary school. So now we're way out of secondary school age, and it's way late as well. And us being naive kids, as we were, thought, let's have a stroll through the secondary school. Let's have a walk down memory lane and see some of the old spots we used to hang out. So we hopped the fence and we kind of walked around a bit. We saw some of the old buildings. We looked in the windows a bit. They always had these signs up that said there was like security, like it was being watched and stuff. And we were like, clearly they're nonsense. So let's have a walk. So we had a walk. We hung out in our old areas, stood by the benches we used to stand by, and just had a little general mooch and quite enjoyed it. Then, as we're walking out of the school area, flying down the road, right, comes a police car. And then from the other direction, come flying up the other road, which was like a cul-de-sac area, came another police car. They get out, relatively serious at this point. And the one guy says he's had to drive up some paths and things. So the cul-de-sac, he wasn't in the cul-de-sac. He'd driven through some paths, through a little foresty bit, and driven up so he could get to us on time. So they did have this security system in the school that they said they had, and they had basically come both sides of us, very movie style, and pinned us in. To which, you know, we were slightly inebriated, slightly tipsy, and so we kind of enjoyed. We had a chat with them. They realised we were no threat, so we had a bit of a joke about how we thought we would just pop it in. It's a bit of a walk down memory lane. They were kind of laughing about how silly we were doing that, but then up above, spinning rotors, only a bleeding helicopter flying above. They sent out a helicopter as well, which is like particularly bad, right? Because that costs a lot. Now, I at the time, even in the state I was in, I was like, oh my God, guys, I hope you haven't sent that out for us. And the person said that it was no, it was out anyway. They said it was out anyway, so we asked them to fly by on their way. I hope that was right, because I have to say, people say it's like £1,000 or £2,000 or something per time they have to get the helicopter up, and that would weigh heavy on my mind if our trip down memory lane turned into £1,000 fee for the police. That would not be good. But that's my shame, is that we had a trip down memory lane, and for some reason had this approach from all these police cars, helicopter overhead. It was like hardcore, you know, crazy breaking the law. Apparently, but the good thing was the one policeman in a car and the other police woman in another car had come up. Police person, you know, they both came up and they quite enjoyed. So we had a bit of a laugh. Really, they sent us on our way, and they didn't seem too annoyed that the helicopter was flying over. So, so there we go. That's my Graham Shame calling out the popo. Graham's Shame. But to relate it back to our discussion on what we're talking about and professional and personal life crossover, should that story be allowed to be said in the classroom? Obviously, I wouldn't say the part about us being drunk. I'd say we were simply walking home. But is that an okay conversation to share with kids and say, oh, you know, we made this mistake and police came out and police helicopter flying overhead, and kind of have a little bit of a joke about that? Or should I be seeing that as moral influence? And, you know, I wouldn't bring it up in the classroom, to be honest. But, you know, should there be a thing of, because that happened, I shouldn't be a teacher? You know, maybe some people think that. I don't know. I find the whole conversation about what teachers should or shouldn't do very controversial. And I think it's very murky. And so, you know, that's why I'll push you more for more input on it. Aside from teaching, with the Matt Hancock one, what do you think? Do you think that's different? Do you think he actually really he should be morally held to a standard because of the level of his job and the public scrutiny he's under? Is there a difference with him? And the Love Island teacher is not a public figure and is not under public scrutiny until now. So maybe that should be fine. Mal says, hell yes, he should be. Yes, I agree as well. But what I've been trying to kind of find in this show, Mal, is where's that line of where our professional lives meet our personal lives, and why. Obviously, for him, there's a ton of reasons why he should be held to account, because obviously he's paying that person with taxpayer money, and the fact he's been telling us all to behave one way while not behaving it his own. I get that. But let's see, Mal says politicians should be held to the Nolan principles. Well, listen, I love Christopher Nolan movies as much as the next guy, but I don't think Inception has anything to do with it, Mal. But I don't know what the Nolan principles are, unsurprisingly. So feel free to enlighten me on that one, Mal. Of course, politicians are in a very specific public space, but should teachers be held to the Nolan principles as well? Because I don't know what they are, but I bet there's something about, you know, conducting yourself in a certain way professionally, because that ties into your personal life, something like that. And for me, it strikes me as there may be a link there between teacher decisions as well. Because of course, what I'm drawing a link in between here, Mal, as I see you've joined us just now, a link between the Love Island teacher. I think he should be allowed to go on. I don't think there should be any limit to the things we do in our lives as teachers. But of course, I do think Matt Hancock should have stepped down. I do think it was awful that he did what he did there. And so where's that line? And we were talking about the role model, the issue of kids being influenced by their teachers if they're watching Love Island, or being influenced by their teachers if they're out and about, if they're seen out and about doing things. But I really don't. The thing is, I've not been told of any defining, I'm allowed to do this, I'm not allowed to do that. There's no book of rules that teachers are allowed to do certain things and not others. It's very blurry. And for me, that causes a problem, because I don't like the fact that something I might do in my free time at some random point might suddenly come back at me. Oh, that's not very teachery. Like, who's to say? Tim says, treat what you say in class like when you're posting something on social media. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. That is wisdom right there from Tim. I agree with that, absolutely. But on that same front, I would say that doesn't mean we shouldn't use social media. The thing is, if you're totally like morally kind of, you're probably not going to be in teaching anyway. If you're posting like wild things on social media, or really controversial, or swearing loads, or going out on benders and tearing up the town centre and graffiti and things or whatever, you're probably not going to be a teacher. Maybe you will. I don't know. Maybe that's small-minded of me. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Something to think about. Oh, so this selflessness, integrity. I wonder if these are the Nolan principles that Mal is mentioning here: selflessness and integrity, objectivity. So shouldn't these all strike me that they could cross into teaching as well? Accountability. So should that be a thing that in our training year, Mal, should we be rather, chuck out the teacher standards and instead get in the Nolan principles and watch Memento along the way? So, no losers there. Openness, honesty, leadership. Are these all actually the principles here, Mal? This is a big list of Nolan principles you're sending my way, and I like them, and they do strike me as they would apply to teaching as much as. Okay, that is it. That's the 7 principles. Okay, here's your 7 principles, guys. Listeners who are interested in maybe some set of standards that teachers, or certainly politicians, should be held to. Here we go. Selflessness. That's quite a blurry one, Mal, if I'm honest. How do we measure that or really know when something's selfless? Integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. A lot of nice words there, but not always very easy to pin down. Honesty, for example, would be lovely, but there's a lot of times when honesty might not have a place, right? Or sometimes it's, as a teacher, certainly when I think in the class, I might need to be dishonest for the sake of protecting a kid's personal life. Do you know what I mean? So kids shouldn't all be entitled to certain things. So, but whether we should be expected to disclose all things in our lives when asked, is that necessary? Now, those 7 principles, Mal has said that all politicians should be held to, and I only wonder whether, when we talk about the moral issues around Love Island and teachers' personal lives, whether that's what we're talking about. Maybe those are things that need to come into teaching. Maybe 7 principles of public life. Holders of public office should take decisions solely in terms of the public interest. Well, that's true enough. Is a teacher is we employed by the council, aren't we, by our boroughs? Is that the same for us? But you see, the thing is though, Mal, when you were talking about selflessness, this is a very murky area. Do you ever see the episode of Friends where I think Joey or Phoebe or something are trying to do something selfless, and it all becomes, but if you do the thing that's selfless, then you're still benefiting from what comes to it. And that's the same if you're in public office and you do things to help your own community. Well, you're part of that community, so it's not really selfless. And the same way, some people in public office appear like they're doing things for the public interest, but really it's for their mates, and they're giving contracts to people who they know and will benefit from. So that idea of selflessness is very hard to pin down in a kind of measurable and checkable way, and we see at this point it's not really working. Yes, no act is selfless, Seema says, as Joey proves. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a very hard thing, to be selfless. Obviously, in some cases, it can be easier to do. But when we talk about public life or like public sector work or teacher work. It's a very vast area there to talk about honesty and selflessness. Are all things I do as a teacher selfless? Well, probably, I guess I hope a lot of them are. But surely there will be probably a number of things per day I do, which are just for my own convenience or to make things easier. I don't know. Mal says Johnson didn't put India on the red list because he wanted to go there. Goes against Nolan principles. Well, that's very true. Anne Hancock famously gave some of the NHS contracts or the PPE contracts to people he knew rather than people who might be better for the job. So there you go. Yeah, well, we're saying that like a fact. The belief is that he didn't put India on the red list because he wanted to go there. We can infer that very clearly from events that have unfolded, but it's not a prescribed and absolute fact. I should be clear about, as I am on this platform of speaking publicly. Mal says the ISI refer to NP. Mal, the vastness of your references is somewhat intimidating for a little noob like myself. I can't say I know what the ISI or NP are neither. Okay, moving on. So, moral stance of teachers. It's something I want to come back to, funnily, which is related also. Something that's been going on Twitter and in the world. In fact, no, before I talk about the Twitter world, what I haven't mentioned yet, if you are still listening and you're still keen-eared on Teachers Talk Radio, there is British Podcast Awards, people. British Podcast Awards. And guess who I think you should vote for? Teachers Talk Radio. And we are there to be nominated, to be voted for. I think we've done a pretty amazing job so far this year. Not to blow my own trumpet. We are full of amazing hosts. We're in the room right now. We have Mal, Sobia, Seema helps at Teachers Talk Radio. Tim helps Teachers Talk Radio. Nicola helps at Teachers Talk Radio. And loads of other listeners, being amazing that they are. Freya, I think, has been in the room as well. We have a great range of hosts around the world. We're hosting calls from around the world. Guest speakers, which are just awesome guest speakers, have been constant from February, a constant feed of shows coming out, different viewpoints and different discussion points all around teaching. I think we deserve a place on the British Podcast Awards. So if I could twist your arm or persuade you to vote for a podcast on the British Podcast Awards, what you need to do, and it's real quick and easy. I did it the other day. It was so simple. Pop to britishpodcastawards.com. That's britishpodcastawards.com/vote. And then it's real easy. You just type in Teachers Talk Radio, click on the icon of Teachers Talk Radio, and then they'll send you an email and you verify it and you're done. That's all you have to do. So please vote for us. If you enjoy us, if you tune in and you like listening to Teachers Talk Radio, it doesn't have to be me. You may well enjoy Emily Follow-Run Show. Maybe you've been enjoying Sam Elliott, or you've been enjoying Kyle Graham, who sadly recently moved on from Teachers Talk Radio. But I have a feeling he'll be back soon. We've had such wonderful things. Kate Jones on a Friday morning slot. Love it, love it, love it. BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. Get on there for Teachers Talk Radio, and we would appreciate your votes because it would be rather exciting to see if we can get anywhere on that. I think we deserve. I got to say, hats off to Tom Rogers and team. Mal's been doing a lot of work on Teachers Talk Radio behind the scenes, as has of course Tom. He's the main man. He's the captain of the ship. Let's see if we can do it. BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote, and that's Teachers Talk Radio. You are listening to Graham Column, just coming into the end of the Sunday brunch on the 4th of July, Independence Day for America. Right, I don't know what the tune is for America, so that's what you're getting. And happy Independence Day. Leave a cookie out for Captain America. That's what I've seen trending this morning on Twitter. I quite enjoyed. Leave milk and cookies out for Captain America on Independence Day. And remember, kids, that it is celebrating independence from Britain, okay? From the taxation of King George is what Independence Day is celebrating. Well done, America, for standing your ground and revolting against the powers that be and creating your own country. Good job, guys. Good job. And what I didn't know is that it actually took a long time for the UK to acknowledge America as a country, because obviously it was seen as a British extension for a long while, or part of a British Empire, and it was well into Queen Victoria's reign. I think by the time they actually acknowledged, I think it was towards the end of Queen Victoria's reign, they acknowledged America as an entity. So kind of controversial there. It was not always seen as America and Britain as separate. So there you go, a little bit of Independence Day knowledge for you. Do I have any Americans in the room listening in, celebrating their independence, maybe lining up some fireworks later or a party or something? Social distancing, people, keep sanitizing those hands. Over here in the UK, the social distancing side of things is getting a little bit intimidating from my point of view. I usually talk about this at the start of the show, but forgot to. In my own school, my own class has had some people not come in because of people catching COVID. We had a class closure now because of some people with COVID in the class. It's a bit of a worry, isn't it? Doesn't it feel a bit familiar? It's all creeping back. Why? We were so close to getting it right. At least loads of us are vaccinated now, right? At least loads of us are vaccinated and we are safe in that degree. But it's a bit of a worry. And I hope that as the next few weeks go on, we head into the last 2 weeks of school, 2 and a bit weeks of school for many of us. I hope you are safe. I hope you enjoy them and you find some rest. Today is my first chilled day in so long. My weekends have been rammed. We're trying to, because social stuff is back on, a lot of people are trying to catch up. We had a barbecue last weekend. We were out yesterday. Every time we're seeing family and friends and catching up with people. Today is my first time in months, I would say, that I've really had just an open day of nothingness. So I hope you guys manage to make some time for yourselves as well. I hope you're not running around like a headless chicken as I have been recently. And don't, be aware of burning out. Don't try and be everyone to all things to all people. Give yourself that break if you need it, because I think these last few weeks, they're gonna be tough. It's tougher than it's ever been in previous years. So my last little kind of parting note to many of you is just to wind down, take some chill days, go vote for a podcast. Guys, come on. That's an easygoing activity. You can do that while drinking a cup of tea on your Sunday brunch. Vote for a podcast, people. Good times. And actually, if you want to have some insight into some other aspects of teaching, not things I've gone into today, Amy Ferguson, who's a fellow Teachers Talk Radio host, she hosts the Saturday Brunch, amazing show. She always touches on really great issues, much more, ahead of the curve than I might be. She has put a question out recently on Twitter, which has been fascinating and maybe it's somewhat depressing as well. She put out, have you been bullied in school by a colleague, leader, parent, or young person? And each of those kind of deserves a little moment's thought, doesn't it? To think about teachers who might be bullied by a parent, situation, or by a young person in class. That the intimidation of dreading, a class with a certain pupil because there's this developing, relationship of bullying going on. It's fascinating. But then to read the replies, obviously the tweet has really kicked off and it's been liked more than 1,000 times and retweeted hundreds of times, or certainly more than 100 times. And it's disheartening, to say the least, the amount of bullying that goes on in teaching, the amount of stories there are of different people being pushed out, people quitting, people leaving because of poor leadership. It's eye-opening. And then as I was thinking about it more, I was thinking, is that a teaching problem, or is that a workplace problem in general? Because I have a feeling that's not just in teaching. I wonder if in any circle on Twitter you could talk about bullying and all the stories would come out. I think on voiceover Twitter these stories would come out. You certainly know the Me Too movement kind of had these stories of manipulation and bullying and people using their power over others, certainly in horrifying ways. So perhaps it's not a teaching issue so much as it's a workplace issue. Maybe in teaching it's harder to push people. If there is a bully, it's harder to manage. Any government type of job, I know it's very hard to move people on, if you know what I mean. If somebody's not positive in the workplace, you have to put them through about 3 years worth of programs before you can justify sacking them, essentially. And maybe that's the issue. But it did raise a few questions in my head, not just that bullying is a lot in schools, but just maybe bullying in general, maybe just in humanity. We need to really look at this problem in the eye and talk about what's going on and why it is. Let's see. Mal says there's a real lack of humanity in leadership. Absolutely. That want to get results at what cost, and not realizing that actually supporting people's well-being leads to good results. Happy teachers are good teachers. That's always what my head teacher has kind of had at the bedrock of her ethos, has always been, you look after your teachers and they'll look after your classes. And I couldn't think of anything more true. But unfortunately, many people don't see that. They see the simpler version of, I push this person to do it and they will do it. It's not good. It's not good. And you wonder about these people, these same characters, you know, they'll be bringing up kids, or they'll be in their social circles. And what are the ethics in these groups? Sobi says our profession is supposed to be ethical, and so I don't think it should happen. Of course, it should not happen in teaching. It shouldn't happen in any profession. Maybe more so, but you know, funnily, it crosses into what we've been speaking about, this moral area of teaching, which is undefined and blurry. Of course, it shouldn't be happening in teaching, and of course, if it didn't, then so many classes and issues, I bet, would be less in the world, and maybe, you know, it would resolve a surprising number of issues in the country if only there was. But you know, the same thing should be asked about, well, how are we selecting our leaders in schools? Who are the people making these decisions? Why aren't they making the decisions well enough? It's a really excellent discussion that I'm sure Amy will continue to pick up on in future. It's a long-running discussion that really deserves some depth, and I've just come up to the end of my show now, so I'm not the one to have it with you. But I hope you've enjoyed the discussion around morals in our lives and in our teaching, the crossover of professional and personal lives, the Love Island teacher, the Matt Hancock controversy. He can go. He can go. Honestly, I'm not going to miss him myself. See you, Matt. Have a good one. All right. I just hope that your replacement does something good, and I'm not convinced he will, but we will see. I'm just being a cynic. I've missed you all last week, and so I'm glad to be on the air, and sorry if I've been extra ranty today. I just can't help myself sometimes. I wish you all the best in the next week. I'll be speaking to you next week, and probably with another Graham Shame up my sleeve. I have one listed here. If I'm feeling it, you will get to hear more. I hope you enjoyed our police disclosure today, and I hope I don't get sacked because of it. Hold on, where's the end? Here we are. See you later, guys. Have a great Sunday.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.
And if you're waiting to fill out that Love Island application, go get 'em, kid.